and welcome to another episode of Cup of Joe. We are in the middle of a 7-part series. We are talking about the virtues of a school nutrition leader, and I have with me, as always, Joe Pettit of Joe Pettit Inspires and Kern Halls of Ingenious Culinary Concepts. If you missed last week's episode, we started with trust and how trust is key to a school nutrition leader. And today's episode, we're going to talk about vulnerability. I'm really excited to learn more about this. We touched on it when we talked about self-awareness in a previous episode, but we're going to expand more on vulnerability. So with that, Joe, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks again, everybody. And we're just getting a little bit of steam rolling in the right direction, talking about virtues of a school nutrition leader. And I believe one that I did not acknowledge coming into it was vulnerability. I think it's one of those things where some cases I would do it naturally, maybe too far sometimes, being too vulnerable. I think you can be, sometimes you can, you really have to be cautious about that, how much you're being vulnerable. But I believe that a lot of people aren't vulnerable because really deep down they think it's a weakness. It's not. It's actually a strength. Brene Brown has, become the guru on vulnerability and leadership, which is great. And I believe there's a lot of truth behind it because she really put it into the spotlight of how important it is to be. But I want people to hear is that it's a strength, not a weakness. Being vulnerable is a good thing. It doesn't open you to attack. It opens you to actually grow and connect with your team. And I know for one of the cases for me is that I watched trust build the more vulnerable I was, because here's the thing, and we mentioned the self-awareness. I'm not a registered dietitian. I'm not a chef. I'm not the finance guy. I understand who I am, and I'm okay with saying that in front of God and everybody here on this video for a moment. But the fact is, I know it and I'm okay with it, but I want to have a team that helps me in those areas because my strengths are one thing, but being vulnerable actually builds the trust within inside of my team. And Kern, I know that you definitely have trust among your folks and teams that you lead. Tell me about a time, I'm just curious to hear that where you've seen vulnerability help you grow as a leader.
Yeah, you know what, for me personally, I'm very straight up with people that I am not like that small. I'm not like the person that wants to count all the pennies and nickels and all that kind of stuff. So I always tell people, like, I rather sweep the parking lot than do like data entry, right? That's not my forte. I don't like doing that at all. So I like just doing the physical work and just thinking. So I can tell you an instance where in school food service, when we're trying to roll out a CART program, and it was so kind of forward thinking. And that's why I guess they say I'm the chief innovator. I try to think around the corner of what's coming next. And the team didn't want to do it. They're like, I don't see the vision. I don't want to do it. So I had to kind of open myself up and say, like, look, here's the, we do A, B, C. This is the results that you would get from it. And it was challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. It took me months to really drill this into their head and say, like, look, here's something that, that is going to be benefit to the students, generate some revenue. And it took me a while to go ahead and do it. But it was frustrating. So I'm not even going to sugarcoat it and say that was a pleasure doing it, but it was frustrating. But I had to make myself really vulnerable to really, not only let's really humble yourself, but really to say, like, just you all have to really trust me to, to make sure that we can move forward and get these things going with the students. And after about 6 months, it finally happened.
Yeah, Liz, what are your thoughts on vulnerability in leadership or just in general as a person?
I feel like vulnerability, I don't see it so much as like when I'm looking at it, when I'm vulnerable about my weaknesses or things that I'm not the best at, it's even bigger opportunity for my team to grow, for someone else to step in and bring their talent and say, well, if you don't have that, then I do. So maybe even not so much as a leader, but as a team, it just creates opportunities, I think, to be creative and to grow together and let others step up and then them grow as leaders as well. So I have no problem pointing out what I don't love doing. Like Kern said, I don't love like data entry, like either what I don't love doing or I'm not good at. And it's funny, you mentioned like, I was at an ICN training at I think it was, I was Connecticut SNA conference, and we were ICN training about working with different personalities. And I remember that they were talking about different personalities in the workplace and what shape were you. And both Ariane, my teammate at Sea Level, both of us it was square, circle, squiggle line, triangle. Both of us were squares. Like 100% we were square. And then I saw squiggle line, and that's somebody that's creative, that's way out there, but that's what we need. So I feel like where we're vulnerable and we know where we could be better, that's when the team grows, that's who we're going for. So that's what it means to me, not just as like individually, but as I look to grow my team for sure.
So Joe, I have a quick question for you. So like going into this of vulnerability, do you think that the personality test that you do, like I've been through it, do you think that helps people, help leaders identify that trust, vulnerability, all those different things that need to take place as a leader?
Yeah, so here's what I've learned, Kern, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because the thing that I have learned when we do personality tests with school nutrition teams, a lot of folks are afraid to share where they're not good, their blind spots, so to speak, right? At first they're afraid. So that's where back in episode 1, that virtue of a school nutrition leader, have you built an environment where trust is king? And then when you do the personality test, by the way, you can get this personality test by sending a message. Send a message. I don't want to give it to you in a link because I want you to send the message. I want to see just how hungry you are to get this information and knowledge. And because you really have to be guided through it. But Kern, I believe most people, because your personality is this today, right, you can still grow and strengthen in your weak areas. But I also want people to hear, when you're being vulnerable as a leader, it shows that you're human, and it is the best way to connect with other people. So when you're doing your personality test or whatever the case may be, when teams start to see, oh, well, Liz, like you said, she's a square, so to speak, in this particular assessment that she took. Oh, okay, now they start to open up more. And you see, that's what vulnerability does, is it allows us to open and connect, which really segues me into the call to action, because I did this with our school nutrition administration team maybe 3 years ago, because we needed to build the amount of trust we have with one another. It's not that we thought somebody was lying. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between that. It's how can you build that trust, and you had to be vulnerable. So here's the call to action. Do this with your next administration team, okay? Do this with any of your group of friends or something. There's 3 very simple things. The first, you want to ask each person to answer, where were you born, right? Second, where do you fall in the pecking order of your siblings? Are you the youngest, middle, third? If you don't have any siblings, well, then that tells me a lot about you. And then the final question is what was your biggest struggle growing up? What was your biggest struggle growing up? So very quick, we're going to show them right here. This is very ad lib for you 3, all right, and for you 2. So this is how we build that trust and be able to be vulnerable. So for me, I'll start. So I was born in Union, South Carolina. I am the youngest of 3 boys. And then my biggest struggle growing up was having my father was out of our life at about 9-ish or so. And so I had a lot of struggles just trying to find my way in a very small town. We were kind of poor, and I was always wanting to be the best or try to really, grow in my academics and athletics. But sometimes I really struggled by not having my father there to help guide me. So Liz or Kern, who wants to take it?
Okay, I'm scared to do it because you made that comment about only children, and now I don't know what you think of me.
No. You would be able to connect with other people who are only children.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, I'll go ahead. I'll jump in.
Hey, I thought we had built trust already, Liz.
Yeah.
I would think anything.
So I was born in Beaufort, South Carolina, only child, and my biggest struggle was my dad was in the Marines. And we moved around every 3 years, and I was very shy as a kid, shocker. But I was very shy, and it was making new friends. It was leaving behind old friends and making new friends was really, really tough. But it took me until high school to really break out of the shell. You'd think I'd learn sooner, but that would be it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So myself, I was born in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. I am the middle child. People say sometimes the rebel child, right? That's me. And, I think for growing up, lacking the guidance of, which way I should go and getting a really strong advice of what should I do just as a young man, but fatherhood, the whole 9 yards. So I had to learn a lot of that stuff on my own. And then fortunately, I had great mentors in my life later on. So that definitely plays a big, big factor on how a person leads.
Yeah. And so as you all just sat in on, we were just vulnerable, right? And so now we are able to really be able to pull our teams together, because now I know something about each Liz and Kern that I did not know before this exercise. So what I want you all to do is to take this exercise. I'm telling you right now, I did it 3 years ago, and I can still remember my executive director's response. I can remember my director at that time's response. I can remember some of my colleagues. They shared something they had never shared at the table before, and I watched our trust start to build, because instead of me jumping to a conclusion about something, I thought, remember that struggle they had? Then you start to take that into consideration. And so as a school nutrition leader, I hope you all will take this exercise and really be able to reap the benefits of building that trust by being more vulnerable.
I love it. I love a good takeaway like that, Joe. Thank you so much for making us go through that completely unscripted. We did not know that was going to happen, like many of these episodes, which makes them great to me. That's what I think. So thank you both so much. We're going to continue this series of Virtues of a School Nutrition Leader every Wednesday, 6 p.m., brand new episode on Ingenious Culinary Concepts and Joe Pettit Inspires on Facebook and on YouTube. So thank you both so much. That was a lot of fun.